Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about your knowledge panel for your website, for your personal branding. And I Googled your name on google.com. And this is what we see right now. So, and this is quite interesting, I find, because Google is aware of you. So knowledge panels, as I mentioned before, you have the two rails on Google, the left and right hand rail, and the left hand rail
Yeah.
deals with the recommendations, whereas the right hand rail deals with the facts. And once I Google your name, you share a name with an actress, and Google is
Yes.
considering which Angela Nesbitt I am interested in finding more about. And you have yourself here and also the actress here. When you click on this link, it actually opens up this view, which is which has the knowledge panel for Angela Nesbitt, the actress, but you don't have a knowledge
Okay.
panel just yet. And this is what we're going to talk about today, because there are several things to do on your website to attain a knowledge panel. Now, you have an interesting branding because your website is your personal brand, which makes it simpler from a point of view. There is another point of view which we'll need to address before attaining a knowledge panel. And that is the fact that your website is essentially a single page. And you have here these internal, you have here these links, but they're just internal links to several sections on your website,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah.
However, to attain a knowledge panel, what you really want is to have more pages on your site. And what I mean by more pages, let me show you an example. So I'm going to show you an example of what we'll need to optimize on your site in order to attain a knowledge panel. And then I'll take you through the main criteria to have or attain a knowledge panel, to trigger a knowledge panel. So I'll show you an illustration of Peter here, Peter Chi. He has a beautiful knowledge panel. And you can see his knowledge panel is built with, he's the CEO of ITD World. His knowledge panel is built with the ITD World website. He has a page on the website, which is what we're trying to attain for yours.
Yeah. So can I just ask, hold on a sec. Is there I'm trying to think if there's a way to make the screen bigger, because enter
My
full screen.
Right.
No, for me to see, because this is really hard to see. Okay.
Oh, right. Okay. Let me.
I just don't know how to. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
How is that? Is that better?
Carry on. I think I've made it a little bit better.
How is that?
Yeah. No, that's fine. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, I think we can attain a knowledge panel for you, which will be similar to Peter's here with your website. There's a fundamental aspect required for a knowledge panel, and this is what I want to explain to you before I delve into the other aspects. Your website, as I mentioned, is essentially a page. Right, just one page.
Yeah.
And I know it's just one page, one from several ways, but here is one way because there's just one page index on Google. Now, to attain a knowledge panel, you really want your site to have more than one page. So the first sign that your site can be used as a knowledge panel is to have what we call site links. So something like this for ITD World, where you have the homepage and then you have other pages which are listed below the homepage. That right there is a sign that Google will consider your site as the source of authority. Remember, when we're building a knowledge panel for one site, we're essentially trying to get Google to use our site, in this case, your site, as the source of information, the source of the most authoritative source for who you are. And currently, because you just have one page, one beautiful, great landing page, it's just one page. So the first thing we'll need to do is ensure that we have more pages on your site. And I think the quickest way to achieve that is to essentially turn what you have here at the top into pages. So you have this page, which is the home page, but if you can have an about services, a CEO and leadership, and book appointments, or maybe not book appointment, but these three, definitely you can have these as pages.
Yeah.
And by pages, I mean with URLs, new URLs to go along with them. This will ensure that you have more than one page on your site, which Google can use as an authoritative site. Now, I don't think this would be I don't think this will be very difficult to achieve. One, because you already have the content on your site. We just need to be sectioned off into different pages rather than having everything in one page. So that's the first thing. Turn these into pages with URLs on your site. The second thing at that point will be to choose what we consider a entity home for your site. Now, in this case for you, I would suggest either your home page, so either this page or your about page. Either one works fine. Essentially, an entity home is the page that you say to Google, this is the source of information on my site for you to use. So in theory, it can be any page.
Yes.
One reason why SEOs tends to suggest the about page rather than the home page is the home page it's usually used for marketing to targeted users, the one's audience, right? Whereas the about page can then be used for search engines. So providing the information about the brand to search engines. Now, it depends on how you want to use your homepage. If you want it to be focused more on your target audience, that's fine. You can keep it as it is and then use the about page as the source of information for your entity to create the knowledge panel.
That seems to be what you're suggesting, right?
Yes. I'm suggesting that. I think that will be the best option. The alternative option is.
And how does one make the about section? Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Do I just ask the web designer to make the about page? How do I say, make that for use for the search engine? I mean, what's the instruction?
So I'll take you through it. I'll take you through it.
Okay. Austine, I don't mean to be rude. Do you mind if I just wait a second? I need to get something, for my stomach. I'm taking some medicine and.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll hold.
And I just suddenly realized I need to have something to, line my stomach. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Sure.
Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, I'm back. I'm listening. Sorry.
No worries. I can edit.
So you were saying,
I was saying with the entity home, essentially you need to decide on which page on your website that you want as your entity home. It can be your home page or it can be your about page. Either or is fine. You just need a page. I recommend using the about page. So once you've created your about page, which will have a URL. So the URL, for example, will be angelanesbitt.com/about, right? Once you have that, the content on there will then need to be in a specific way. And this will be the second step that you'll need to create a knowledge panel. So this second step is having your entity description in a specific manner. And this you'll need to, in fact, let me go over to Peter's and I'll use his as an illustration. It will need to be in third person. And the first sentence needs to be in a specific way, which is essentially subject, verb, object. Subject being who you are, so Angela Nesbitt. Verb is, and then who you are, essentially, as in what your profession is. Your description ideally should be in the format that explains who you are, what you do, and which audience you serve. Those three ways, you can have it in 3 sentences. It can be as long or as short as you, or ideally not as short as you want.
Sure.
Go for it.
So it's going to be subject, verb, object is the first sentence, and then the balance describes who I'm working for.
Yes. So the first sentence is the most important, right? That is what search engines will use to understand your personal brand. It will then use subsequent sentences to reaffirm it. So if that first sentence is in that specific way, that's great. The rest of it you can have as you want. And ideally, the rest of it should contain what you do and which audience you serve. Well, that first bit, who you are, needs to be in that subject, verb, object format. Similar to how Peter has his here. Now, there will come a time where search engines are able to understand brands in a less succinct way. But for the time being, they really need it to be explicitly explained to them, which is why that subject, verb, object is used, right? So that is what you'll need within the first sentence of the about page once you created it. And then the third step is to build the authority of that about page. And this is where the corroboration becomes important. Now, let me explain this. When Google crawls that page, it will read who you are, try to understand who you are, and then go out to other sources to try to confirm their understanding of what they've read on your site. So that very first sentence, subject with that strict format, subject, verb, object, if you have that in other areas across the web, such as appropriately across the web, I should say, such as LinkedIn, perhaps your Twitter, if you have it, social media is great for this practice. When Google crawls go for it.
I use LinkedIn, or I'm trying to learn to use LinkedIn. I do have a Twitter account, but I don't post on it. Not yet.
Okay. Just those two.
I mean, should I put an about page on Twitter?
So you can.
I'm not going to be tweeting for a while.
That's fine. You can, as long as you have their handle, your account on Twitter, your profile on Twitter. That's fine. You can update it and then tweet when you're ready to tweet.
So on my Twitter handle, I should put a profile.
So if you have your Twitter, that is your profile. So it'll just be a matter of updating the description on your Twitter. And
yeah, okay. You know what? I think my Twitter handle is I think I got it very, very early on. So it's just like my straight name, because no one was on Twitter at that point. And I don't think I've done anything with it since. I don't even remember putting a profile on it. I didn't know there was such a thing.
So is LinkedIn,
so I probably have to go and look at that.
LinkedIn is your main profile, social media profile. Okay, start with LinkedIn. Now, I would suggest having that description updated after you've updated your website. So your page on your website, your about page on your website. Once you've updated that, then update your LinkedIn. And it'll be a case of whenever you're featured on other places across the web, if you can have the description as close to the way you have it on your website, it will reaffirm Google's understanding of who you are. Now, the point of doing this is to build confidence. Is to build Google's confidence in their understanding of who you are. So the more they go across the web and come across you with the same description or similar description, the more their confidence builds.
Okay, so sorry, I shouldn't have this in my mouth. LinkedIn is where I have put most of my attention, because more people are going to look at LinkedIn, they're going to look at my website. So
sure,
I probably should have my website reflect LinkedIn. The only thing is, LinkedIn has a different format. I mean, like, where would I put Angela is an executive coach, for example?
So this is why
that's not the language you would use on LinkedIn.
Yes. So this is why I suggest having your description appropriately the same across platforms, depending on the platform. So if it's not necessarily the same language in most cases, no, in some cases, that should be fine. What matters is that Google is able to understand who you are. As I said, there'll come a time.
Okay, so just to make sure that I understand, sorry, could you look at my LinkedIn profile, please?
Oh, I am.
That has the.
I am on Google. I don't think I'll be able to access it on here now.
Oh, okay.
I am on. Oh, okay. I guess this is fine.
Yeah. So you see where it says empowering CEOs.
Yep.
And it does say I'm an executive coach and facilitator, mentor. So I could repeat some of those words, but I'm not going to have, if you want, the order is going to be different, because LinkedIn doesn't want me to say in third person, Angela Nesbitt is an executive coach.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah. This headline.
You see what I'm saying? But I can put executive.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah. This headline you can keep as you want, or appropriate it the way you want. I would suggest if you're going to have that third person description, the about to be a better place for it. The about section right here.
Okay.
You see it? So this headline.
Now the advice I have got. Yeah.
Go for it.
I was going to say, the advice I have received from LinkedIn experts is not to write. Let's see. There's so much advice. Hold on. Let me just look and see what they want a more friendly language, and let's look at this. Sorry. View profile, looking in the wrong place. Why is this not responding? Discard message. Discard. I don't know. Oh, maybe us. Oh, it has a message I was trying to send to you. Still. Okay, let me just get rid of that so that it will allow me to continue moving forward. Okay. So my about section. I am clicking the wrong places in my rush. There's a saying, rushing does not bring, a literal translation, rushing does not bring any benefits. Let's try again. Because the reason I want to look at this is because I don't want to misspeak. Where is...
What was the gist of the advice? Was it specific to LinkedIn?
Well, it's supposed to be friendly, and you're not talking the third person. You're supposed to be telling a story. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand literally what you're saying.
So, okay, so that might be appropriate for LinkedIn. And if that is the case, you'll need to make a call on whether how you want to use LinkedIn to benefit your website, essentially. Because you could, as I said, you'll have to make a call on how you want to appropriate the language on your website, specifically your entity home. And your other LinkedIn profiles, your other social media profiles. So it might be a case of you decide, well, this I want to keep as is. Maybe I want to tweak the wording here, and the about, I want to keep it as is, but I just want to make it reflect, what I have on my entity home, but without using it in third person. That's fine. That's a call that you'll have to make.
Okay.
So where you can use third person, if you, some cases you might decide to keep it in first person or in a different type of format. Okay. That would just be a judgment call. Now, once you have that, it'll be a case of keeping that consistent across the web. Now, remember, whenever you're ideally, when people are linking to you, they can either link to your homepage or your about page. The about page, think of it as the source of information for your entity, right? And I say that to say you'll want to build the authority of that page just as well as you build the authority of your homepage. Okay. And in short, what that essentially means is, whereas sometimes you might have websites linking to your website, the homepage, if you can also have links to your about page.
Okay. So if I have a link to, I think I've seen somebody link to only. Would I have seen that? Somebody would put only against their website as a link. Yep. Would that be a valid? Yeah. Yep. Okay.
That would be so.
Where would I put that?
So it'll be a link from your own profile, your owning page. Okay. A link on your owning page pointing to your about page on your Angela.Nesbitt website. So on your owning page, you'll have a link that's angelanesbitt.com/about.
Okay. Okay. So I need to go and find where that profile is. I think I did it, but pretty sure I did. And, my listening to you somewhere along the line, I guess I should have my LinkedIn posts linking to my website.
Yes, ideally. Your LinkedIn posts. Okay, so on your LinkedIn, there are several places where you can have a link to your websites. I think there is I forget where it is on LinkedIn, but you can have something that says like, visit my website, right? And that is you can have a link there to your website. You can also have it within when you're setting up your profile. There's an opportunity to have a link. And then another areas for it is when you have posts on LinkedIn. So if you have, let's say you have a thought leadership piece on exec coaching, you can have a link to your website on that piece. Ideally though, I would suggest having some sort of, practices in place. So if there is a need to link to your website with posts, and this is posts specifically, do so. Otherwise, it's best not to, because it can come across as very promotional. If every post,
yeah. So should I just well, this must have been last week when you're talking. So should I take my LinkedIn post and put it onto a blog page on my website?
That is one approach to use for your content. Ideally, you'd want to appropriate it. Now, I use that word quite often. It's essentially, you don't want to have the same content on LinkedIn as well as your website, because then where is the best place to have that content? So you'll need to make another call on what contents do I want to put on which platform and for what purpose.
So, well, I don't want to be making extra work for myself. I'm just trying to have,
there are,
yes, so I take a LinkedIn post, because the more people are going to look at my LinkedIn post than are going to look at my website for the time being.
Yeah, that is why.
So do I take this post and do I change the wording a bit and then make that a blog post?
What is the need or use for the blog post on your website? You'll need ideally like a content strategy that's I would say a bit considered and more that's extensive from this conversation, I would suggest.
Well, the reason this came up is when I thought I heard that if the more times you update your website, the more the SEO, I don't know what they're called, the search engines have a chance to refresh. And they say, so if every week I'm converting a LinkedIn post into a blog post, then there's going to be a refresh, or more frequent refreshes.
In theory, yes. But what is the purpose of the content? If you're just creating content on your site just to have your site refreshed, that's not very, it's not targeted at users. It's more for search engines. Ideally, the content on your website, especially your website, should be for your users. So if your users, if there is
which are the same people on LinkedIn,
right? So what is your
same
strategy?
Audience.
What is your strategy? Which is best for you to use? Which do you want to build? Your LinkedIn or your website?
Oh, LinkedIn is more important right now for me.
So that is probably the better one to use rather than your website. Unless you have the bandwidth to do both.
So I shouldn't take my LinkedIn posts and make them blog posts on my website.
That is one approach to use. You'll have to make that call yourself, Angela. My point is, I think you will need a strategy that covers both, well, not both, but all the platforms you use online. So if you have your website, you have LinkedIn, and those are your two main platforms, you want both platforms to perform well in search, you'll need a content strategy for both. Now you can have content and appropriate the content for the two platforms, but that is more work. And if you don't have the bandwidth, lastly, if you don't have the bandwidth, then make a decision on which platform is best for you to use for the time being.
Well, LinkedIn is the most important right now. But if somebody comes to my website and they see all these posts, they're more likely to look through lots of posts, I guess, on my website than they would on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is more people are seeing it.
So
on a daily basis.
For the short and medium term, LinkedIn. For the long term, your website.
Okay.
It's a
So
lot
what
to
else do I
consider,
need to
right?
do? Yeah,
Those,
yeah,
so that is,
yeah,
I'll have to cut this, well, finish off this session at this point, but those are the
yeah,
three
sure.
main steps, 3 steps plus the first thing I mentioned. So to sum up, the first thing is to have more pages on your website. That is the absolute first thing to do. And the quickest way to achieve that is to turn your existing sections into that you have on your one landing page into pages. So have those as URLs. The second thing is to decide on your entity home, which is you've already decided upon. It will be your about page. The third thing will be to update your description and use semantic triple for the first sentence, subject, verb, object for that very first sentence. Ideally, your description should contain the information of who you are, what you do, and which audience you serve. And then the fourth thing in this case would be to have your corroboration across the web. This is essentially saying to Google, my personal brand is across these platforms or these sites. And whenever Google crawls those sites, they'll see the same information or similar information about you, and that will reaffirm their understanding of you, which will build their confidence. Lastly, time-wise, once you have your landing page, your website, once you have more pages on your website, and you have your entity page, you're looking at roughly 6 to 9 months for your knowledge panel to be built. In this case, I would suggest it's more towards the 9 months, just because currently your website is just one landing page. The great thing about this landing page is you've already built authority over the years that you've had it. So that authority will flow to the different pages that you create.
Okay.
Wow. Lots to do.
Thank you.
But all of this is worth it. A year from now, you'll be looking at all of this and say, yes, I'm definitely happy I created this. So it's a lot to do. It's good problems to have. But yeah, they are good problems to have. And again, this is optimization, right? So there is never an end point. You're creating or improving from an already good base, which is your website.
Yeah, looks like I probably need to find a new website designer. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank
you so much, Angela. I'll end the recording here.
Yeah. And how can I be of help to you?